welcome to another edition of the Key Play. I'm your host, Donovan Keys. Thank you for joining us. Today's guest is Thomas Hughes. Thomas is the lead editor at Virginia Tech of Sports Illustrated. He is also a member of 3304 Sports. Thank you for joining us.
Nice to be here, Donovan. So, a lot of stuff has been happening around Virginia Tech football in the last couple of weeks, men's basketball too. Just a lot of positive buzz surrounding both of these programs right now.
Yeah, a lot of positive talk around Tech sports in general, which is nice to have. First, I wanted to talk to you about James Franklin's introductory press conference from this morning. What were your biggest takeaways?
Well, the first thing I think is that Franklin really referenced that he was a player's kind of coach. He said a lot of words specifically on he wants to keep accountability and respectability at the forefront of the program, but that he's also going to be the player's biggest supporter. So the feeling that I get from him is that he's going to be very hands-on and very involved from day one once he steps in and assumes over that head coaching role from Philip Montgomery. It just seems like he's a very proactive kind of person. You get the sense that he's already working on what he wants to do with his recruits. He mentioned during the press conference that he was on the phone with 40 recruits 2 days ago, so it seems like he's already hitting the trail, trying to get things set up. And it's an interesting position that you run into here, Donovan, where you have a head coach that is going to essentially start some of those responsibilities before the season is already concluded. So it's interesting because it places the current interim situation in a bit of a lame duck scenario, but it gives the incoming staff an opportunity to evaluate who's on the current roster, and it basically gives them an opportunity to figure out what they want to retain and then what sort of different changes that they want to implement for 2026 and beyond.
Yeah, I know James Franklin also mentioned that he didn't want it to diminish anyone's position while bringing in his staff. I have a quote from him. He said, "I asked for two blessings, my father-in-law to marry my wife and Frank Beamer to take over the program." So he honors tradition, and tradition is a big reason why he chose to come to Virginia Tech. Going to our next question, what influence do you think Brent Pry had on James Franklin's decision to come to Virginia Tech?
Well, obviously, the two of them had a very close connection to one another. Brent Pry's dad was, I believe, the offensive coordinator at Division II Strasburg. I think it was East Strasburg under when Franklin was playing there. So there's obviously the connection there. Then Brent Pry follows over James Franklin to be the defensive coordinator at Vandy, and then eventually at Penn State. So, there's a 30-plus year connection there. And then, Pry kind of goes and blazes his own trail at Virginia Tech. Doesn't exactly work 16-24, but then you see Pry, in his exit statement that he published on September 14th, the day that he was fired by the program, he states that he still had a desire to see what was best for the school and that, Hokie Nation, the place would always be home for him. And Franklin referenced during the press conference that, he had a lot of conversations with Pry about Virginia Tech, and that Pry kind of gave him the good, the bad, and the ugly, and that it was still enough for Franklin to say, hey, I'm going to come over here, and, Brent Pry is going to give me like an honest and relatively unfiltered look about, what's good here, what didn't work for me, what could be things that could work better for you. Just a lot of openness from Brent Pry seemed to be the statement from Franklin during the press conference.
Yeah, it seemed like there was a lot of open communication between Brent Pry and Coach James Franklin. Now let's get back into the season. Virginia Tech has its last home game Saturday against number 15 Miami. How do you think the Hokies will fare in that game?
Well, a lot of this season you've noticed that Virginia Tech football has tended to stay in the game. You notice how they did so against Louisville, less so against Georgia Tech, but there have been moments this season in which this team has been able to compete with top teams. You see South Carolina, they were up into it until the fourth quarter, until Vakari Swain goes in, I believe, that 80-yard punt return touchdown. And there are these moments where you think that this team can contend. It's probably better than a 3-7 team that you have right here. So I think that Miami is handily the better team. They're favored by, I believe, 16.5 points on ESPN's betting metrics. I'm heavily leaning towards Miami on this matchup myself just because Miami, they're once again around that college football playoff conversation. I think that Virginia Tech has what it takes to make it close initially, but that eventually it's just going to slip away. Miami has more skilled players And I think the biggest thing, they have a more consistent option under center. You know, Miami has Carson Beck. He's been in the college football playoff before. He's had that playoff experience before, whereas Kyron Jones hasn't. Carson Beck has dealt with interceptions a little bit, but I think when you look at the turnover problem, you know, Tech has not done great. I believe that they have one of the lowest turnover margins in the country. So you look at that and you think, okay, Tech's not going to be able to force much turnovers, even against a turnover-happy quarterback in Carson Beck. That kind of leads me to think that Miami will eventually pull away convincingly.
All right, now we're going to take a short break and hear messages about driving sober.
The black truck? Hey, Christina from accounting.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, I used to date a girl named Christina.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then she dumped me for my best friend. You want to see some photos of them that I took?
I don't.
I thought we talked about this, buddy.
Buzzed and overshared again?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna call a car.
That's a smart idea.
So yeah, I know, that's why I did it.
Hey, you're gonna get back to the top of the mountain.
Does that mean I'm gonna get back with Christina?
No.
Oh.
No.
Hey, there's no way you can hide it. If you drive drunk, they're gonna find you. So stop kidding yourself.
Sir, have you been drinking tonight? Sir, have you been drinking this evening?
Sir, have you been drinking tonight?
They will catch you and arrest you. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Welcome back to the Key Play. Now let's talk about a more successful Virginia Tech sport, men's basketball. The team is off to a 4-0 start and is looking to make it 5 in a row tonight against Bryant. What have you liked from the team so far this season?
Well, you know, it seems to be a quite balanced unit, obviously headlined by the addition of Greek import Neoclis of Dallas. You know, the first 5-star recruit to come in since Dorian Finney-Smith in 2011. But then you also have a balanced roster. Apart from that, you have Ford Monty Hansberry. You have UNLV guard transfer Jalen Bedford. You have other players continuing to develop that were here last season, like Ben Hammond and Jaden Shute. And of course, VCU's incoming Toby Wall with a 49.5-inch vertical. But it feels like this team has been very balanced so far this season. In all 4 of their games, they've had a different player lead the team in scoring. So against Charleston Southern, it was Wall. Against Providence, of course, it was Neoclis of Dallas with 33 points. I cannot remember for the life of me who led the team in the third game. I think it might have been Imani Hansberry. And then last game, it was Jalen Bedford who led the charge, had 16 points in the first half. But it seems like a very balanced scoring output team. It also seems like a team that's worked very hard to limit the turnovers, had only 6 turnovers in their last game against Charlotte, managed to put them away after faltering a little bit. But you see more consistency both on the scoring end, on the assist end. They've worked to limit the turnovers. And I think that this is really a unit that could be able to contend for a spot in March Madness this year.
Yeah, very, very promising squad this year. And when you look, we don't get into that ACC play until late January, until like the later matchups. But unfortunately, that is all the time we have. So thank you so much, Thomas, for joining us. And thank you for tuning in. The Key Play. Stay classy, Blacksburg.